Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Akriti and in today's video, I will be explaining about UML. So let's get started with the video. These are the contents for today's video. All these topics I will be covering today. Let's start with what is UML. The UML stands for Unified Modeling Language and is a standardized general purpose visual modeling language in the field of software engineering. It is used for specifying, visualizing, constructing, and documenting the primary artifacts of the software system. It helps in designing and characterizing, especially those systems that incorporate the concept of object orientation. It describes the working of both the software and the hardware system. The UML was developed in 1994 by Grady Booch, Ivar Jacobson, and James Romberg at the Rational Software. In 1997, it got adopted as a standard of the OMG, that is, Object Management Group. The Object Management Group is an association of several companies that controls the open standard UML. The OMG was established to build an open standard that mainly supports the interoperability of object-oriented systems. Okay, so now let's move on to the goals of UML. Since it is a general purpose modeling language, it can be utilized by all the modelers. UML came into existence after the introduction of object-oriented concepts to systematize and consolidate the object-oriented development due to the absence of standard methods at that time. The UML diagrams are made for business users, developers, ordinary people, or anyone who is looking forward to understand the system, such that the system can be software or non-software. Thus, it can be concluded that the UML is a simple modeling approach that is used to model all the practical systems. Next, let's look at the features of UML. The UML has the following features. It is a generalized modeling language. It is a distinct it is distinct from other languages like C++, Python, etc. It is interrelated to object-oriented analysis and design. It is used to visualize the workflow of the system. It is a pictorial language used to generate powerful modeling artifacts. Next, let's look at the role of UML in object-oriented design. As the UML is a modeling language used to model software as well as non-software systems, but here we are mainly focused on modeling object-oriented software applications. It is essential to understand the relation between the object-oriented design and UML. The object-oriented design can be converted into the UML as and when required. The object-oriented languages influence the programming world as they model real-world objects. If we look into class diagrams, object diagrams, collaboration diagrams, or interaction diagrams, all would basically be designed based on the objects. Hence, the relation between OO or object-oriented design and UML is very important to understand. The object-oriented design is transformed into UML diagrams according to the requirement. Now let's look at the building blocks of UML. UML is composed of three main building blocks, that is, things, relationships, and diagrams. Building blocks generate one complete UML model diagram by rotating around several different blocks. It plays an essential role in developing UML diagrams. The basic UML building blocks are enlisted below. Number 1, things. Number 2, relationships. And number 3, diagrams. So let's start by understanding what are things. Anything that is a real world entity or object is termed as things. It can be divided into several different categories. Number 1, structural things. Nouns that depict the static behavior of a model is termed as structural things. They display the physical and conceptual concepts. components. They include class, object, interface, node, collaboration, component, and a use case. So let's look at what is a class. A class is a set of identical things that outlines the functionality and properties of an object. It also represents the abstract class whose functionalities are not defined. Its notation is as follows. As you can see the notation, we first have the class name, then the class attributes, and then we can have the class function. Now let's look at what is an object. An individual that describes the behavior and functions of a system. The notation of the object is similar to that of the class. The only difference is that the object name is always underlined and its notation is given below. So this is the notation of object. Interface. A set of operations that describes the functionality of a class, which is implemented whenever an interface is implemented. Notation is shown on the screen. Now let's come to use case. Use case is the core concept of object-oriented modeling. It portrays a set of actions executed by a system to achieve the goal. Next is behavioral things. They are the verbs that encompass the dynamic parts of a model. It depicts the behavior of a model. They involve state machine diagrams, activity diagrams, and interaction diagrams, etc. So let's have a look at the state machine diagram. What is it? It defines a sequence of states that an entity goes through in the software development lifecycle. It keeps a record of several distinct states of a system component. So these are the notations um, uh, uh, by which we can design a state machine diagram. For initial state, we have a filled circle. For state or state box, for states, we have state box, which is a rectangle with curved surfaces. And for the decision box, we have a diamond. And then final state can be represented using a filled circle inside a circle. Grouping things. It is a method that together binds the elements of the UML model. In UML, the package is the only thing which is used for grouping. So package can be grouped in UML. Package is the only thing that is available for grouping behavioral and structural things. This is how a package looks like. Now last is annotational things. It is a mechanism that captures the remarks, descriptions, and comments of UML model elements. In UML, a note is the only annotational thing. So an example of an annotational thing is a note. Note, it is used to attach the constraints, comments, and rules to the elements of the model. It is a kind of a yellow sticky note. Now let's look at what are relationships. It illustrates the meaningful connections between things. It shows the association between the entities and defines the functionality of an application. There are 4 types of relationships as given below. Number 1, dependency. Dependency is a kind of relationship in which a change in target element affects the source element. Or simply we can say that source element is dependent on the target element. It is one of the most important notations in UML. It depicts the dependency from one entity to another. It is denoted by a dotted line followed by an arrow at one side as shown below. Association. A set of links that associates the entities of the UML model. It tells how many elements are actually taking part in forming that relationship. It is denoted by a dotted line with arrowheads on both sides to describe the relationship with the element on both sides. Generalization. It portrays the relationship between a general thing, for example, a parent class, and a specific kind of that thing, that is a child class. It is used to describe the concept of inheritance. It is denoted by a straight line followed by an empty arrowhead at one side. Realization. It is a semantic kind of relationship between two things where one defines the behavior to be carried out and the other one implements the mentioned behavior. It exists in interfaces. It is denoted by a dotted line with an empty arrowhead at one side. Now let's come to diagrams. The diagrams are the graphical implementation of the modules that incorporate symbols and text. Each symbol has a different meaning in the context of the UML diagram. There are 13 different types of diagrams of UML diagrams that are available in UML 2.0, such that each diagram has its own set of a symbol, and each diagram manifests a different dimension, perspective, and view of the system. UML diagrams are classified into three categories that are given below. Number one, structural diagram. It represents the static view of a system by portraying the structure of a system. It shows several objects residing in the system. Number two, behavioral diagram. It depicts the behavioral features of the system. It deals with the dynamic parts of the system. And number three is interaction diagram. It is a subset of behavioral diagrams. It depicts the interaction between two objects and the data flow between them. So this is the architecture of UML. We have the logical view, the development view, the physical view, and the process view. And there is one more view, that is the use case view, or we can also call it scenario. So now let's understand each of the views one by one. Logical view. The logical view is concerned with the functionality that the system provides to the end users. UML diagrams are used to represent the logical view and include class diagrams and state diagrams. Process view. The process view deals with the dynamic aspects of the system, explains the system processes and how they communicate, and focuses on the runtime behavior of the system. UML diagrams to represent process view include the sequence diagrams, communication diagram, and activity diagram. Development view. The development view illustrates a system from a programmer's perspective and is concerned with the software management. This view is also known as the implementation view. UML diagrams used to represent the development view include the package diagram. Next is physical view. The physical view depicts system from a system engineer's point of view. This view is also known as the deployment view. UML diagrams used to represent the physical view include the deployment diagram. Lastly, but not the least, we have scenarios. The description of an architecture is illustrated using a small set of use cases or scenarios, which becomes the fifth view. The scenarios describe the sequences of interactions between objects and between processes. They are used to identify architectural elements and to illustrate and validate the architecture design. They also serve as a starting point for tests of an architecture prototype. This view, as I already told, is also known as the use case view. Now, why do we call it a 4+1 architecture instead of five-view model architecture? Well, this is because of the special significance of the use case view. Of the use case view. When all other views are finished, it's effectively redundant. However, all other views would not be possible without it. It details the high-level requirements of the system. The other views detail how those requirements are realized. With this, we conclude the topic of our presentation. So that's it for today's video. If you guys liked it, then please do hit the like button and please share it with your friends and family, and also subscribe to my channel for more such videos. Thank you.